Hi, my name is Sophie. I recently graduated with a BA in French, German and Spanish and found myself a grad job in London after many interviews, some which went well, others that didn't, and some that made me realise that I didn't even want the job at all. And I even ended up turning down a job offer before receiving the one that I accepted, and as I'm filming this, I'm going to be starting tomorrow, so I thought I would film this video to share with you my experience and what I've learned from this process, because I know that when you've just graduated and everyone's asking you what are you going to be doing next, it's quite a weird, strange time. And yeah, I thought maybe this video could be helpful. Even if you didn't do a languages degree, I'm sure it would still be helpful, and if you're not looking for a job that uses language skills, because the jobs that I went for are like typical jobs that you could do without language skills. I was just applying for ones that said in brackets like, a speaker. We're looking for a speaker of a certain language. But yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So firstly, I'm going to talk about how I decided which jobs to apply for, because for some people they know exactly what job they want to do, and that's great. That means they can start looking for, those roles as soon as they finish university, or even before they finish university. Whereas others, it's a lot harder to decide what you want to do. You might have no idea, and just know that you're not alone. But what I would suggest in these circumstances is thinking about what you would want to do in a job, what you're looking for in a job, and if there's anything also as well that you definitely don't want in a job. Like, list those things down, because it'll make it so much easier for searching for jobs, because you can put in keywords or key locations, and just when you're going through job descriptions, you can really see if those jobs match what you're looking for or not. So my requirements were that it was based in London, and preferably somewhere that I could commute to from Basildon, my hometown, so that I wouldn't have to rush to find a place to relocate before I even start. I didn't want the stress of that, especially because I am lucky that my parents live in a commuter town. It just made sense to me to, find a job in London. And I like London, but yeah, find a job in a part of London that was easy for me to commute to. And then another requirement, which was a big requirement for me, is that I was able to use at least one of my foreign languages in my role. I wasn't too fussed about using all of the languages, because I know that's going to be quite hard to find, and in a way it might be good to just use one, because my friends who studied one language at university, I feel like they have reached a higher level in that language than I have in any of mine, just because I've had to spread my time out between 3 languages. So in a way it would be quite a good thing, because it would allow me to become quite advanced in a specific language. I mean, I am advanced in all 3, but to become even better. But if I could use all 3, then I definitely wouldn't not apply for it. And what was my other requirement? I definitely had another requirement. Oh, that there were opportunities to progress. And if they didn't say about opportunities to progress, if I did get an interview, that was a question that I made sure to ask, because no one wants to be stuck in a job where they feel like they can't progress, they're not going anywhere. Obviously, I wasn't expecting to progress super quickly, but it's nice to know what a typical progression route within a company would look like. And I didn't really have anything that I didn't want to do, because I didn't really know much about different jobs and what different jobs involved. So I kind of just was typing away Spanish speaking and German speaking and French speaking into LinkedIn and Indeed, and seeing what jobs were out there, and obviously setting the location to London and looking at the descriptions and seeing if I thought I could do them. Oh, and I later decided I didn't want to do like customer services. I did go for an interview for a customer service role at some point, and I got really far into it, and then it was actually for an energy company, and I didn't get it anyway, but I remember starting to think, wait, I'm gonna have people shouting down the phone to me in Spanish about the energy crisis, and I was like, can I do that? Can I handle that? I knew I would be able to, because I've worked with this difficult, I don't want to say difficult customers, but I was a manager at Domino's Pizza for a bit, and I worked in Debenhams Travel Money Brewery, so like I've worked with customers, I've dealt with customer complaints, but to be doing that all day non-stop, at least in those jobs I had other tasks to do as well as tending to complaints, to be just knowing that I will mostly be probably tending to complaints all day, that didn't sound very fun. So I want to talk about when to start applying next, because that's another thing that I had no idea about. I had no idea when to start applying, and I remember one of my lecturers telling me if other people are applying for jobs, that's probably a good sign that you should be applying for jobs too. But in my circumstance, like all of my close mates at uni were either applying for masters or doing some sort of work abroad, which obviously had different deadlines, so I couldn't really go by that. And also, like, I don't think it's necessarily good to wait until your friends apply to apply. You should look and decide when to apply yourself. And one of my friends told me you should wait 2 months before you're able to start applying. But I actually kind of started applying when jobs started to find me, because I put my LinkedIn up as open to work. Well, I'd put it up as open to work, I think a while ago. I updated my LinkedIn or something, and then suddenly recruiters found me. So I suggest selecting update open to work. I think I did this around April time, and that's when recruiters started to find me. And I did notice that there was only some that really reached out to me in April, but then it became like a time where loads were starting to reach out to me, which was actually around May when my exams were, so I actually didn't have the time to go to all these interviews and stuff, and I found it quite overwhelming. But it made me realise right now people are starting to, apply for jobs, and there are jobs out there, and now's the time. So kind of as soon as I finished my exams, I was like, right, I mean, I had some interviews for other stuff, but I was like, right, I need to take applying for jobs seriously right now, immediately. So now I'll talk you through quickly my process and kind of what I learned from my experience. So I just mentioned briefly that I kind of started looking for work earlier than planned, because recruiters started reaching out to me. So one day I got a message on LinkedIn for a recruiter who wanted me to apply for a recruitment role within her company that was going to involve speaking German. Now, she actually said something about tech recruitment to me, and I thought, oh, I can't do that. I know nothing about tech. And then she called me up. She wanted to arrange a call, so I was like, sure, I'll have a call and find out a little bit more about this job, because I can't say no, I'm not applying for that before I know all of the details. So I listened to her, and she firstly explained that I didn't need to know anything about tech, and I suddenly thought it sounded amazing, and it sounded like something I wanted to do. And I was thinking more probably by the benefits, and also just I was going to be using my languages that stood out to me, but also I thought I was going to be helping people. I thought, oh yeah, recruiters, they help people, what a rewarding job that is. And I guess I initially thought I was like people matching, and anyway, I applied for that job. I didn't hear anything back from them, which actually kind of shook me, because they had contacted me, they had headhunted me. So in my mind, I thought that would mean that I would at least hear back, even if I didn't get an interview. I thought I would hear back, but I thought I would get an interview. I thought they wanted to interview me, but I heard nothing when I sent off my CV. So I was kind of shocked by that, but obviously I didn't let that stop me, and more recruiters started reaching out to me about roles in recruitment, and I ended up going for a few recruitment interviews. And at this time I kind of thought, yeah, recruitment is something I want to do. I did realise that recruitment is more sales based, not just helping people, but I still thought, well, I'd still be helping people, and I'll still be using my languages depending on the recruitment agency. But there are plenty of recruitment agencies in the UK that have clients overseas, so there are lots of opportunities to use languages in recruitment, especially like tech recruitment and life sciences, which often they need German speakers for. So yeah, but after a few interviews in quite a few places, I started to think maybe recruitment isn't for me, for many reasons, and one of them, the main one sticking out to me, being the long hours. A lot of them did give you like an early finish on Friday, but they were all just starting earlier and finishing later, and I just felt like my brain would just switch off at like the end of the week, and I'd just be so I'd just be too tired, I feel like, by the end of the week to actually do a good job. I'll be able to do the work, but I don't know if I'd be able to do it to the best of my abilities. And there's lots of other reasons I decided recruitment wasn't for me, but I kind of was like, oh, I think I'm not interested in recruitment now. And I was just continuing to put in like type in German speaking or French speaking or whatever to LinkedIn and Indeed, and just applying for jobs that way, often going onto the company's website and applying directly through the company, because I had heard other people say that you should go through the company directly whenever you can, rather than like on Indeed, because they'll see all of those jobs last. There are some jobs where I had gone through Indeed, because there was one where like I couldn't see the job posted on the website, or I could, but it didn't say Spanish speaking in the website. So initially I was like, is this job not there? But then I did actually end up getting contacted and ended up getting to a final stage interview for that job, but I didn't get it anyway. Yeah, so I was applying for some jobs, and then everything got a bit overwhelming with exams, so I started just only going for jobs which recruiters contact me about on LinkedIn, if after having a phone call with them I thought it sounded like something that I could do and that I would be interested in. But a lot of these recruiters messaging me were asking me to become a recruiter, so most of them I would say no thank you to. I think there was only like one that I went for it, and then I actually had COVID when I did that interview. It was terrible. It was online, but it was not with it. It went terribly. I didn't know that I would have COVID when I agreed to it, and then when I did know I had COVID, I told the recruiter I was fine, I had no symptoms, and then I was just pre-symptomatic, and the interview went terrible, and I felt like I couldn't then tell the recruiter I didn't want to do it or just not show up to the interview, so I did it anyway because I was in isolation. It wasn't like I was doing anything, but yeah, that job was not for me and I did not get it anyway. Maybe if you are really sick, just don't go to an interview, because it's not going to go well. I mean, it's up to you. I guess it depends how sick you are and how badly you want the job, but I mean, you could ask them to rearrange it. I'm sure they'd be accommodating if you are sick, you know. I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling on now. But yeah, I went for quite a few different interviews. Sorry, one of my memory cards seems to just have very limited space and I always forget which one it is, and apparently it was the one that I was using. So yeah, where was I? I think what I wanted to say was that I felt like I wasn't really getting anywhere, because a lot of the jobs that I was seeing as well that were German speaking or Spanish speaking or French speaking, that didn't want you to have like a ridiculous amount of experience in a specific industry, where in like customer care, which I didn't want to do, and I did go for one interview in customer care before, I think I mentioned that earlier, before I realised that's not what I wanted to do. And then recruitment roles, which I didn't think I wanted to do, and I felt kind of lost and I didn't really know what to do. And you know, there have been a few roles, like I did go for some roles, if they said 2 years experience, I tried my luck. Anything over that I didn't, and there was a role that didn't initially say experience, so I applied for it because I had quite a few of the languages that they were looking for. It was like German and either, and I had 2 of those languages, and I ended up getting an interview despite the recruiter calling me and saying, yeah, I think they want someone with more experience, but I'll try anyway and just push like for you to get an interview with a lower salary. And I did, but they took like over 2 weeks to get back to me. It was just, we're still interviewing more people, and it just felt like they were waiting for someone with more experience and the same languages as me, as me, and it felt like I was only being considered because of the amount of languages that I am able to speak. And yeah, and I ended up actually messaging back a recruiter who messaged me about a recruitment job, even though I thought I didn't want to do that, because I felt a bit lost, and certain people kept asking me, oh, I know this isn't what you want to do, but why don't you apply to work for the NHS in admin, or why don't you do this, with like telling me if the companies they worked for were looking for people. And I was like, I'd at least rather do something with my languages that will give me transferable skills. And I was like, maybe I actually would like recruitment. How can I know if I haven't given it a go? So I went to an interview and I pretended I liked recruitment. And during this time, I also got contacted by a recruiter from a graduate recruitment agency, which I will talk about in a bit, because I feel like I've learned that graduate recruitment agencies are like the best recruitment agencies to go through if you choose to go for work through recruiters. I just, from my experience, all of the graduate recruitment I can't speak graduate recruitment agents graduate recruitment consultants that I've dealt with have just been amazing. But yeah, what was I going to say? So I was going for an interview for that job and also the recruitment job, and both of them gave me final interviews. And I got offered a final interview for this other job, which I wanted so much more, and is the job that I ended up getting, and I'm starting tomorrow, which was in an industry that I didn't even know there was work for me for, so I wasn't searched for it initially, but when I heard about it, I was like, oh, that's an industry I can definitely see myself working in. And I ended up applying for other similar roles afterwards, which I obviously didn't end up going to interviews for because I got this one first. But yeah, the recruitment job, I had that final interview first, and they offered me the job, and I didn't know what to do because I had this other final interview for this other job that I really wanted. So I accepted it verbally and thought I would put off signing the contract. And then because of the heat wave, my final interview for the other job got pushed back. But you know, when you're at final interviews and they ask you if you're in any other procedures, I told them that I had another interview on the Tuesday. So on the Tuesday they called me up because I hadn't signed the contract yet, and was asking me about the other interview, if I'd gone to it and what I was thinking. And I mentioned that it got pushed back, and I was told I had to sign that contract by 9:30 the next morning or decline it because there were other candidates waiting, which I completely understand, and they definitely wanted that job more than I did, so I completely understand. What I wanted to say is I just felt really like confused because my head was telling me it'd be safe to take this job, and my brain was telling me that, but my gut was telling me I could not go to this other interview, like they were telling me to cancel the other interview and sign that contract. I cannot not go into that when the job just sounds so right. And even when I told my friends about the job, my old flatmates at uni, one of them said to me, that job sounds so you, so I couldn't not go for it. And in my head I was like, you know, I could just be looking for so long, and I could have to deal with more people asking me what I'm going to be doing, and I'm gonna have to deal with not having any money for any longer. But then my gut was like, you might get that job, and if you don't, you know, did I really want the recruitment job? No. So it's probably a sign to go for that job, and if I don't get that job, then I'll get something else. There's always other jobs out there. And yeah, I turned down that contract, and literally the day after I turned down that contract, or the morning that I turned down that contract, later on that day, I got an interview for I got a call from another recruiter about another job, and that job, they decided they wanted to interview me. I didn't end up going for that interview because I did get the other job. Woo! But shows there were, you know, other stuff out there, and I think I did the right thing. I did very awkwardly tell, like when I told my parents I got the original offer, I said don't tell anyone in the family yet because I have this other final interview and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want it to like be confusing for anyone. And then I'm glad that I didn't tell anyone, because if people in my family had found out that I had this other offer and that I turned it down and then I didn't get the one that I did get, I think I would have got like a lot of questions from certain people in my family, like, why didn't you accept that? Or why don't you apply for this job instead? I just felt like I was getting a lot of that and it was really frustrating me. But obviously you should, if you're getting that, just ignore it. People are just trying to help you at the end of the day, and people were just trying to help me. I just didn't want to be helped. I just wanted to be left to do my own thing, because I guess that's just how I am. But yeah, I got the job and it's working in event sales and it's Spanish speaking. So yeah, that's what's happening. And I want to just say, the one thing I've learned is don't just apply for stuff because you feel like there's no other options out there. And if that is the case, like if you are really desperate, there's always like shop jobs and stuff that you can apply for, and they're used to people coming and going more often, and they can replace people more easily than like that recruitment agency could have. And other people, you know, that was a grad job, and that was a grad job that other people would have been working hard to get. And you know, I'm sure whoever got that job instead of me was very happy that they got that job. So yeah, if I were to go back and do this all again, I wouldn't have applied for that recruitment job. And if I, you know, did feel just so desperate, I probably would have just applied for a shop job or, you know, a standard job, even though it's not what I wanted. If I really just wanted to get some money and not do nothing, I don't want like I was scared of having a gap on my CV, and I was scared about not getting any experience, and I just find not working and being unemployed rather boring. I like having a job, it gives me something to do. I know I haven't had a job really for a while. I had little bits of work that I've done here and there, but student, that was something I did that offered me some routine, and it allowed me to learn. And any job, even a shop job, you always learning stuff and learning new skills, yeah, so that's really what I've learned. And now I want to talk a bit about recruitment agencies. Yeah, so recruitment agencies, I don't think I even knew recruitment agencies were like really a thing before I started looking for work, because when I had looked for previous work before, it had been like stuff in shops, and I would just go into Indeed or you know, actually type in the name of a specific shop that I knew they had in my town that I was interested in working for, and look on their company's website and apply that way. But recruitment agencies, I'm quite glad I now know about them, particularly the graduate ones, because I feel like they really prepare you loads for the interviews. And I've only worked with a couple, and the job that I did get was through Graduate Recruitment Bureau, who they were very, very helpful. The recruiter I spoke to, Beth, was lovely. Am I allowed to mention her name? I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name, right? I'm saying she's lovely. But yeah, I just find they really prepare you for the interviews. And I had got a job through not got a job, but gone to an interview for another recruitment agency that contacted me via LinkedIn earlier on, that's focused in like early careers. And just from my experience with the two that I dealt with, they prepare you for the interview so much more than other recruiters do. And that meant that I went into, you know, those interviews feeling as confident as I could have, because I knew I'd done all the research I needed to do, and I just knew that I was going to do my absolute best, and if I didn't get that job, there was nothing else that I could have done differently, and that's their loss, and I'll find something else, or it wasn't meant to be, or whatever. I just find they prepare you so much, and I went into them feeling less nervous. Any job interview where I felt like I hadn't prepared so much, I always felt more nervous going into it. So really do your preparation as well, even if there isn't a recruiter telling you how to prepare. You know, go on the company's website and also look at the job description and think about what questions they could ask you in the interview based off of the job description. I know you can't predict every question, but you know, if it's a customer care role, they're probably going to ask you a question about a time that you gave good customer service. So think of an example in advance so you're not stuck there in the interview and your mind goes blank. There's so many times in interviews where my mind has gone blank and I couldn't think of any examples. And yeah, like I said, you don't know exactly what they're going to ask, so you can't always prepare for everything, but prepare as much as you can. Research is important. If you know who's going to be holding your interview, look them up on LinkedIn, because that can help you to think of questions to ask them at the end, because they always love questions, and questions are an opportunity to show off the research that you have done. So yeah, I think that's everything. Or do I want to talk about assessment days, like group interviews? Because before I went to grad jobs, I hadn't been to like any assessment days, or I think one was called an experience day. I think they all have different names for them, different companies, but where there's like multiple people there at once and there's different tasks to do. And the first one I went to just felt so daunting, and it was like the first in-person interview and I didn't know what I was doing, and it didn't go very well at all because I had to do role plays, and I felt like I was really paying attention to other people in the room and comparing myself to them, which didn't help at all, because in my head I'd already failed the second I stepped in there, and you know, the second I'd heard the others, and it was clear that the others had done so much more research than me, and I thought my research was enough, but I guess that was the first interview, so I didn't realise, you know, to what extent to do research. And I guess going to the first one feeling not so worried if you don't get it, it's only the first one, it's interview experience, and I learned a lot from the first interview I went to, and I've learned a lot from every single interview I've went to, and I learned a lot from different industries. And I feel like the only reason I did get that first offer at a recruitment company was just because I'd been to so many recruitment interviews. I say so many, maybe like 3-4, but because I've been to a few of them, and because the first one was for like the biggest recruitment agency in the UK and made me do role plays and stuff, and because I knew that recruitment was a sales-based role, and just from all these interviews and stuff, I knew what they were looking for and could just answer the questions. So make sure you know what they're looking for. Obviously be yourself, but what are they looking for? Because if they're looking for someone with specific skills and you have those skills, then show that you have them, you know? But I'm rambling on. I hope you found this video useful, and if you're searching for a grad job currently, or you're deciding whether you're going to apply for a grad job or whether you're going to do a master's or what the hell you're going to do next, just know you're not alone, and you're definitely not the only person that feels that way. And try not to feel pressure. I know I'm very lucky in the sense where I'm living at home with my parents and I wasn't necessarily rushed, where other people, you know, you may be more rushed to find a job. Money might not be as good. Like, everyone's situation is different, and I am lucky in the sense as well that, you know, my parents live in a commuter town, so I don't have the struggle of trying to find somewhere to live after accepting a job offer. So yeah, that's it for this video. I guess I'm very happy and I'm very grateful, and I hope I helped you all, and make sure to click that big red subscribe button down below if you did enjoy this video. I don't usually give out careers advice or anything like that, so yeah, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't like my usual videos, but you can click on my channel and you can have a look and see if my channel looks interesting to you, and then you can click the big red subscribe button down below. Okay, well, I'll see you in the next video, if you choose to subscribe. Bye!